guys, and welcome to World War II Solitaire board game channel. This is gonna be my first playthrough of the very excellent game Kido Butai. And before we get into the gameplay, I just want to show you quickly how to set up this game. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna have your small paper map. Then you're gonna have 3 cups. In the first cup, you're gonna put your fighter counters. Let's see if my camera wanna be my friend. Your fighter counters and your seagulls with no fighter. So you're gonna have a total of 4 Buffalo US fighters and 4 seagulls. Then you're gonna have a second cup, and in this one you're gonna have 11 bombers and 11 seagulls with the no bomber text. And the bombers, they're gonna be Avenger with torpedoes on one side, and on the other side they're gonna be Dauntless dive bombers. And then again you're gonna have your seagulls, which is no bomber. So you can have 11 of those in one cup. And then in your last cup you're gonna have your enemy, your US enemy carrier ships, and there's a total of 3 of those. So you have the Hornet, you have the Enterprise, and you have the, I think, Yorktown. That's correct. So these guys also have the little seagull which says no carrier. You're gonna have that as well, but you're gonna set that aside. You can set that up next to your cup, because we're going to use that later on, but not until we have drawn the first carrier. Once you've drawn your first carrier, you're going to go ahead and put this seagull in the carrier cup and then keep drawing until you have drawn all of the carriers or the seagull. Alright, so you're going to need one 6-sided die. It will make things much simpler if you have one in 2 colors, and to play it perfectly I choose to use 10 red ones. These are the ones I'm gonna roll for myself, because I have a total of 10 bombers, and then of course for the US, which are gonna be black color, 11 dice, because you have 11 bombers. I just want to tell you right now that this is in an extreme situation. I have often used all of my 10 bombers, but I think the maximum amount of US bombers I've met has been something like 5 or 6. But again, all you need is just 1 dice, but you can add more to make things go faster. I'm gonna push these back a little bit, not to mess with my focus here on the map. So you have your Midway counter. The Midway, just like the carrier counters, are 2-sided. So you have the full strength side and then the damage side. So all of them will start on the full strength side, and we're gonna set the Midway counter obviously in the Midway box. We have our turn counter, which is gonna be set on 430, and then we have our carrier counters. So our 4 carriers are Agaki, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu. Then we have some 0 planes, and you're gonna go ahead and set up 1 0 plane on each carrier. You could set them up any way you want. You could put them on the carriers. I just think it's easier to put them over them. You'll see the carriers have a number. Let's see. They have 2 of them have 4 and 2 of them have 3 in number. And this is the amount of planes that can land on these carriers. And then if they're damaged, that number is decreased. So you're going to put these on their full strength side, which is 4433. So we're gonna have our bombers now, and this is when we're gonna do our first tactical choice of the game. So our bombers can either be loaded with bombs or torpedoes. So this is our first tactical decision. Do we wanna have them with bombs or torpedoes? And it takes a full turn if you wanna change the kind of weaponry. And in the beginning, we are just gonna know where Midway is, and Midway can only be attacked with bombs. We're not gonna know where the enemy carriers are, and those can only be attacked with torpedoes. So my choice is bombs. And now you don't have to choose the same for all of them. You have a total of 10 bombers. 3 of them start on Nagaki, 3 of them start on Kaga, 2 of them start on Soryu, and 2 on Hiryu. I could choose, for example, to have these 6 with bombs and then these 4 with torpedoes, in case I manage to locate the enemy carrier fleet. However, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna choose to start all of them with bombs, because usually it takes a while to find the enemy US carrier fleet, so I hope to do a decisive attack against Midway, take it out, reload all my bombers with torpedoes, and just get ready to attack those carriers. Okay, so that's it, guys. The game has been fully set up, so now we're ready to play. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and send out our bombers, and by doing so we just put them up here in the middle of the map, the amount of bombers we want to send out to an attack. And then I'm gonna go ahead and send 2 Zero fighters as escorts for those bombers, and you're gonna see in future turns why I want to send fighter escorts with those bombers. That's the first phase. Then we have our reconnaissance phase, which is phase 2 out of 3, and you will roll 2 dice, 1 for you and 1 for the enemy. So again, the red is for my Japanese forces, and the black one is for the US forces, which is my enemy. If I roll a 6, I will discover the enemy fleet. If the enemy rolls a 5 or a 6, they discover my carrier fleet, and they can start attacking my fleet. So the enemy has easier time finding me than I have finding him. And we roll a 2 for our US forces, and my Japanese forces roll a 3. So we haven't discovered each other yet. And that means also phase number 3, which is the American phase, will not be initiated until earliest opportunity turn 3 at 6:30, or afterwards once they have located me, because it's not going to be initiated until they've discovered my fleet. So we go ahead and advance the turn marker. So every turn is 1 hour. We're now at 5:30. I've sent out my bombers to attack. I'm gonna send them now to their target, which is Midway, and this is important, guys. I need to turn them facing south, or turning them with their head to the south. And this is just kind of the way to figure out, at what stage are these guys, because if I have a bomber that's faced upside down, they're later going to be faced upside down. That means they've been initiated to combat. And if they're facing that way, the correct way, it means they're refreshed. They haven't had combat yet. So okay, so these guys has arrived to Midway, and the battle though is going to take part, or it's going to be initiated in the next turn. So we go to phase number 2, which is the mutual reconnaissance, and almost got the US carriers. Rolled a 5. They are still far away from discovering me. So no American phase. We go now to turn 3, and this is now time to attack. I turn my Japanese counters upside down. But before I get to attack, I need to draw from the US Fighters Cup to see if they send any fighters defending Midway. So I draw randomly a counter, and we get one US fighter, and I'm gonna keep drawing until I run out of fighters or get one of those seagulls. I get a second US fighter, so hopefully I don't get a third. I was lucky that time because I didn't get a third. I got one of those no fighter counters. So luckily I do have 2 zeros, so none of those fighters are going to be able to intercept and take down my bombers. Fighting amongst these fighters happens simultaneously, so I'm going to again roll 2 dice, one for the US forces, which is the black one, and one for the Japanese forces, which are mine. So the US forces only eliminate my fighters if they manage to roll a 6, but I managed to eliminate their buffalo fighters on a 5 or 6, since the zeros are a little bit more agile. So let's go ahead and roll for the first combat. And look at that, guys. I roll a 6, they roll a 5, so I managed to take this guy out. My 0 is good to go. So this fighter now is out of the game, and when you take out a fighter of the game, you're also going to take out one of those no fighter counters. So he's out of the game. And then we have one more fight, so we reroll. And that's went better for the Americans. I didn't manage to take him out, but he didn't manage to take me out either. So when you're attacking, you are going to go ahead and take those counters, which has been used for the US forces, and put 3 spaces up in the turn, what do you call it, the turn keeper or whatever, turn tracker. If they are attacking, it's going to be 5 ahead, but since I'm attacking, it's just going to be 3 ahead. Okay, so my 10 bombers are unchallenged by the fighters. However, Midway has some AA. So they're going to roll 1 dice for AA, and they are going to be able to make 1 bomber turn back on a roll of 5 or 6. And they roll 1. Very unfortunate for Midway. So that means I have full strength in my bombing. I have 3, 6, 8, 10 bombers. Because again, this is stack of 3, this is stack of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and roll all of my 10 dice. So you hit a carrier with a bomber on a roll of 5 to 6. However, Midway is only hit on a 6. So that's a harder nut to crack. But we have 10 dice, so we can definitely do it. Let's not get too cocky. Let's roll and see what happens. Oh, I get 3 6s, so Midway is definitely taken out. It's flipped to its reduced side, and then it's actually removed from the game. Midway and the US carriers has a number just like my Japanese carriers, and that's also a number indicating how many airplanes they can keep. So since I now removed Midway, that has the capacity of 3 planes, I'm gonna remove 3 of the US planes. However, I have already taken 1 out, so that means they have two planes, which are too many. So I'm removing the first one, which is also a fighter, from the turn tracker. And then once 1 more become available, I'm going to remove that as well. You don't remove them from the random cups. Okay, so my attack was a success. I'm going to go ahead and move my planes to the middle. And I actually did a big mistake. I forgot. Let's say, oh, I can still do it. I'm going to go ahead and send 1 0 up to my cap, which is Combat Air Patrol, to my combat patrol box. So this Zero fighter is now defending my carriers, because we are now at turn number 3. If the US discover my carriers, which they do on a roll of 5 or 6, that means they're gonna be able to start attacking my carriers with bombers. So I definitely want to have a fighter up there. So what happens if the enemy or I attack and there are no defending fighters? Doesn't happen in Midway, but when attacking carriers, if there are no fighters available to counter the attack, what's going to happen is that instead of rolling to hit, every bomber is going to roll 1d6, and for every point, that's going to be 1 point of damage against those ships attacked. So this would be 4 points damage. That would be 2 carriers sunk. So not having fighters defending your carriers is very, very fatal. Could be very, very fatal. However, we sent a Zero fighter up to our combat air patrol box, and it's enough of me talking. I'm gonna go ahead and roll now for phase number 2, mutual reconnaissance. Ooh, a close call. It looked like it would be a 5 for the US forces, but they rolled a 3. So I'm still undiscovered. However, I still haven't discovered the enemy either. So we go over now to phase number 4. We turn our Zero here, which is active in the air. We're going to turn that every turn, and once it's facing that direction north, we are going to have to, west, we're going to have to land it. But we've taken it to this side. Okay, so our bombers and our fighters, which has been out on a mission, are landing on our carriers. And one small note, which is quite interesting, is that you cannot land planes on carriers at the same turn as you are launching planes, fighter planes or bombing planes. So say that, for example, you would return from a mission, and this guy here in the combat air patrol box would have to land. Then you couldn't launch a new fighter if bombers were landing, so that would make you again very, very vulnerable. You could choose to not land those bombers, and those bombers would have to crash land into the sea, and you would lose them. So good thing to remember: you can't land your planes in the same turn as you launch new ones. Okay, so when you land them, they're also gonna have to be facing this side, and next side they're gonna be next turn. You can reload them and refuel them, whatever. So again, I have my bombers right, so I'm gonna actually go ahead now because they're on their bombing side, but there's no reason to have them on their bombing side, because again, Midway is the only target which can be bombed, and we have taken out Midway. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn these guys, whoops, drop one on the floor, to their torpedo side. Alright, so we have all our bombers loaded with torpedoes, hoping to discover the US carriers now that we have taken out Midway. And it's time again to roll for our mutual reconnaissance. And look at that, guys, I have discovered the US fleet, and that means I'm gonna be able to draw from this cup later on. Okay, so we have entered turn 5. We're now at 8:30, and the US haven't discovered us yet, which is actually quite uncommon. Anyway, we start with the Japanese phase. Our Zero here fighter is now in the cap zone, is now ready to land as he's upside down. I'm gonna go ahead and land him over here. We launch our Zero from Agaki. Our 2 other Zeros are reloaded, and our 10 bombers are now reloaded with their torpedoes. However, they cannot be sent out the same turn as they are reloaded, so they're gonna have to wait 1 turn before they can start attacking. Okay, so we have our reconnaissance phase, and now we're just gonna roll the US die. And he rolls a 3. This US player is unlucky. Usually they locate you much earlier than you manage to locate them. So we're going to the next phase, or next stage, next turn. We're at 9:30. We're sending out 10 bombers. Two of our fighters are gonna go with those bombers for escort. Our 0 here, we have turned him, and this one has now been reloaded. So we go to the US or the reconnaissance phase. Let's see if they can find me. Oh, they are unlucky. 5 or 6 and they will discover me. So we go to the next phase, and we have now been able, let's turn this guy before we forget. So we have now managed to find the carriers. As you can remember, we're turning these guys here to locate them. However, we don't do combat the same turn as we find them. Okay, let's draw for our first carrier. And our first carrier is Yorktown. I'm gonna go ahead and put Yorktown over here. Then we take our no carrier counter and put over here, because what can happen now, if I'm unlucky, I'll draw that one, and that means the carriers have split up. But I do find a Hornet, so in here is gonna be Enterprise and the no carrier counter. Let's hope for Enterprise. Oh no, we got the no carrier counter, so we're gonna go ahead and put that aside. That's finished, but that means Enterprise has split up from Hornet and Yorktown, and that means I'm gonna have to do reconnaissance again to find them. Okay, so they're gonna be attacked in the next turn, and we're gonna go ahead now and roll for mutual reconnaissance. Okay, so I don't find the Enterprise, but the US forces haven't found me yet either. So I'm messing around a little bit with the lightning, trying to find the best lightning to be able to see these counters. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's go to the next turn, and now we're gonna go ahead and draw some fighters to see if there are any fighters which are defending Hornet and Yorktown. If we're lucky, there's not gonna be a fight. Oh, look at that, guys. Okay, I can tell you right now that these carriers have had it. There's not gonna be any fighter present to attack me back, and that means these guys are done for. Okay, so I have 10 dice again. All of my 10 bombers are gonna be engaged, and for every point of the dice is gonna be 1 hit. So I mean, it's gonna be at least 10 hits. These guys have 2 hit points each, so I mean, of course they're done. But I'm not even gonna count that. I kind of want to do it. It's like 10, at least it's 20, 30, 39 hits. Okay, 39 hits. I only need 4 hits to take Yorktown and Hornet down. So I've successfully taken out their 2 carriers. The only carrier left is the Enterprise. Okay, guys, I can tell you right now, I've played this game a lot, and I've never ever been this lucky. Usually they sink my carriers before I'm able to find theirs. So don't think this is some kind of easy game which you will beat in a second, because it really isn't. I have been super lucky this game. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and land him, and I'm gonna go and send a new 0 in the cap zone. So we have our mutual reconnaissance. Now I'm looking for the Enterprise, and they're still looking for me, but no luck for either one of us. Gonna go ahead and go up. Let's see, no fighter. I have taken out 2 fighters, so that should be there actually. Okay, so let's do it like this to make it correct. So again, when you take out a fighter, you gotta take out one of the fighters. So I actually did cheat a little bit, because what you have to do is take out the no fighter counter with it. So I had taken out 2 fighters. There we go. All right. So let's see. What do we do now? Yeah, they didn't discover us. We have still our guys here. I'm gonna go ahead and land. I landed this one previously, so he's now reloaded. And I'm landing with my 0 planes as well. Okay, mutual reconnaissance. Okay, I have found, you see I roll a 6, I have found their carrier again, but they have not managed to find mine. So again, I'm super lucky. Again, when you land, you should turn them like this to show that they're gonna be ready next turn. I'm a little bit barbaric using my fingers instead of tweezers. Alright, so next turn, and my bombers are activated. Next turn I'm gonna send them out to fight with the Enterprise. And let's see, my 0 has been up 1 turn, so I'm turning it this way, and then I have 3 0 fighters which are ready for battle. Okay, so mutual reconnaissance again, or actually just for the US because I've already found them, and finally they've been able to find me. So in the mutual reconnaissance phase, they found me. So now we're gonna have our first American phase, and what we do now is we take our bomber cup and randomly draw an American bomber. We have 1 bomber, we draw 1 more. Whoop. 2 of them, draw 1 more. Okay, and then we have the no bomber token, so we got that one. I did just one note: when I attacked with my bombers on the carriers, I should have rolled 2 dice for anti-aircraft, and on a 5 or 6 they wouldn't have hit, but on a 5 or 6 they would have made one of my bombers turn back. But still, it wouldn't have mattered. I had 10 bombers and they had no fighters. So again, sorry about that, but forgot it. Okay, so let's go back to the game at our current stage. So they have 2 bombers here. I'm gonna go ahead and roll now to see if they're dive bombers or if they're torpedo bombers. On a 1 to 3, they are torpedo bombers. On 4 to 6, they're dive bombers, as these guys happen to be torpedo bombers. So now we're gonna see if these guys have any fighter escorts. They have at least 1, 2, and then the last one obviously is gonna be the no fighter. Okay, so I have 1 0 plane up in the air, so he's gonna be engaged by the fighter. And my 0 plane is attacked now by 2 Buffalo fighters. Remember, these guys take out my fighters on a roll of 6. I take them out on a roll of 5 or 6. Okay, so I'm very lucky. They rolled 2 5 and I rolled a 2, so we just cancel each other out. However, these guys are taken out now because they have nowhere to land since I've taken out those carriers. So we have 2 bombers left, and they are going to go ahead and attack my carriers. And the way this works is you're just going to place them out on Agaki, the first one. The second one is attacking Kaga, the third one Soryu, and the fourth one Hiryu. If you have more than 4 enemy bombers, you're just going to go ahead and do it all again. So again, then there would be 2 on Agaki, and then there would be 2 on Kaga, and so on. You get my point. Okay, so these guys are attacking now. They're not attacked by any of my fighters because they're landed here. So I'm gonna start by firing my AA guns, and different to the US carriers, my AA guns hit on a 6 instead of 5 to 6. So my AA is a little bit weaker. I have 4 carriers left, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll 4 dice. I rolled 2 6, so again I am very lucky. these guys are sent back, and since they have nowhere to land, since I've taken out those 2 carriers, that means they crash land and I've taken them out. Okay, so it's next turn. I'm gonna go ahead now and let's see. Okay, so this 0 plane is gonna go ahead and have to crash land because he has to land and refuel. But I want to go ahead and send out my guys here. So, or actually, what I'm gonna do, guys, because these guys, they can remain. They don't have to go anywhere because I'm gonna be able to sink the Enterprise with just 8 bombers. So these 2 bombers stay. This fighter plane is going to go ahead and land over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and send out, because I've taken out all their fighters. They're gone. So I don't even have to send out a new combat air patrol. Okay, so my guys are out looking for the Enterprise. Or actually, guys, I am going to send all of my fighters out in the combat air patrol because remember, if the bombers are unopposed, I'm gonna have big trouble indeed. So I'm sending out all of my fighters, and the bombers are out looking for the Enterprise, or they know that where the Enterprise is, but they're heading for the Enterprise. Okay, so it's since the Americans have discovered me now, we go directly to the American phase, which is phase number 3. The mutual reconnaissance isn't done because they have found me and I have found them. So let's see, how many bombers did I take out? We have 2 bombers taken out. Let's see. And I've only taken out 1, so I have to, before I draw, I have to take out 1 no bomber counter. Because remember, when you take out a bomber or a fighter, you have to take the corresponding no fighter or no bomber counter with it. Okay, so we're ready to draw. Let's see if we get some bombers. Yep, we have a bomber. And second one is no bomber. So let's roll again to see if this guy is a dive bomber or... Yeah, okay, so this is a dive bomber, and I'm gonna go ahead and engage him with 2 of my planes. And this is also something I forgot. Sorry, I'm too excited about having the game of my life. But when you engage a dive... it's a torpedo bomber, you have to go low. So these guys are, this is a low combat air patrol now, and that means next turn they're not going to be able to engage a dive bomber. So these guys are going low to engage this torpedo bomber, and I'm gonna get to roll 2 dice. And on a bomber versus, or again, fighter versus bomber, on a 5 to 6, you take them out, you destroy them. On a 3 to 4, you just make them turn back. So I'm rolling 2 dice. The bomber never gets to fire back, and this bomber is taken out. So we take also the no bomber corresponding no bomber counter with him. So that's another one bites the dust, guys. It's not looking good for the US forces. So again, these guys are now on the low side. The fighters have the regular side and the low side. That's important to note, and I'm going to show it even in close here. So you can see low combat air patrol and just normal 0 combat air patrol. But I still have one guy here who's not low, so in case they come with some dive bombers next turn, I'm gonna be good to go. Okay, so we are going to the next turn now, and we are drawing the last US carrier, which is the Enterprise. I have 8 bombers engaging it, and let's see, there is no carriers remaining. Sorry, no fighters remaining, so we're gonna be unopposed again. I'm gonna get to roll 8 dice for my 8 bombers, but before I do so, I will roll 1 dice for each carrier. So the carrier rolls 2, and it doesn't do anything because on a 5 to 6, it would send one of my bombers back. So I get to roll all of my 8 dice for my 8 bombers, and each of those little points are 1 damage. So you can imagine now we have 10 damage, let's see, 23 hits, I only need 2 hits to sink this guy. Okay, so basically what this is now, it's game over for the US forces. I've actually won. And again, I want to say this, guys, this has never happened before. Usually you're having a hard time because Midway, it's kind of hard to get even if you have a full bombers. Like, we can try to bomb it again. You need 6s to hit it, so you see that's out of 10 dice. That's just 1 hit. You would turn it to its reduced side, and then, you know, finding the location there. You see here again, I will find the carriers on a roll of 6, and here, which is 10 turns, I would only find it one of those 10 turns. So usually the enemy locates you quicker, and you start losing your carriers to the US forces, and it's not an easy time. I have to say something, and I really enjoy this game. I like it a lot. I think it's amazing how, with so simple rules, we have, I don't know what I said, 6 pages of rules or something like that. We have a full game with counters and everything, and usually if I have small and simple games, they aren't really war games. I mean, they have the World War II theme, like The Great Escape or Airborne Commander or Did I Dice in Pocket. They have the World War II theme, but they aren't war games. They are just something like, I mean, they have the theme plastered on them, but I mean, they are really not war games. Like, people like to call D-Day Dice kind of World War II Yahtzee. And I get what they mean, even though I don't really agree. However, this feels like a war game. This really feels like a war game, but it's small, it's simple, and it's fast, and it's fun. So, thumbs up from me, guys. This is a fantastic little game. It's gonna stay on my table for quite some time. It's gonna come with me to work, and I'm gonna have fun with it, as I had. And I hope there's something strange when I turn this camera on, because I have a tendency to win. When the camera is off, I have a tendency to lose, because I have played this quite sometimes and I won once. The other times I had my carriers sunk quite early on, and in one game I was even attacked by 6 or 7 of these bombers, and I mean, they took out Agaki, Kaga, and damaged my Soryu. So again, it's not this simple. Usually, this is also the first time that I win or I take out all the carriers before the turn counter is finished. I haven't taken out all the carriers before. I've taken out... No, I think when I won, I damaged Midway and I took out 2 carriers, and the last one was undamaged. Okay, guys, it's enough of me babbling. So this is Kido Butai from Dr. Richter, War Simulations or Conflict Simulationen. So I'll post a link in the description where you can buy this game. International shipping and small little, what do you call it, folio. Thank you for watching as always, guys, and please subscribe, helps me out a lot. See you next time. I got some fantastic stuff to show you coming up next. Okay, guys, take care, stay safe. And before saying goodbye completely, I also want to point out there's the scoring system with your victories, so you can calculate how good you did. And basically, you get a quarter point for every squadron you destroyed. I destroyed 4 fighter squadrons, 2 bomber squadrons. That's going to be 2 VP. 1 victory point for each enemy carrier damaged, 2 victory points for each carrier destroyed. I destroyed 3, so that's going to be 6, so we now have 8 victory points. Midway base destroyed, 1 victory point, so we now have 9 victory points. The enemy didn't destroy any of my carriers and took down none of my fighters or bombers, so that means we have 9 victory points. 6 or more victory points is a major Japanese victory. My previous victory, which has only been 1, was a minor Japanese victory. The other ones has been minor Japanese defeats and even 1 major Japanese defeat. So again, want to point out this isn't an easy game. Also, you have, which I love, optional rules. You have 3 ways here to make the game harder. So if you think it's too easy, well, here's the solution. Okay guys, thank you for watching.